Here's Vortex, and I'm back with the review of the TRN BA5s, which obviously means they've got 5 drivers aside, and in this case it's 5 armatures aside, 5 balanced armatures. So here's the box. See, 10 balanced armature, reference grade. I wouldn't class these as reference, but I'll get to that in a bit. In-ear monitors, no mic. Never seen the navy version unless that comes out in the future. I don't know. So yeah, 3.5 connection like usual, full armatures, 0.75 pin size, sensitivity of 110 decibels, impedance 22, and frequency response between 7 Hz and 40 kHz. So like way beyond your hearing. And cable length 1.25 meters and 5 centimeters. That's it. And obviously in the box you get the warranty information, a QC check. I don't know how valid that is, but that's what you get. You get 6 tips, 2 that come on them, as you can see. And in the packaging you get small and large. And then you get this basic information, Chinese and English, just normal run of the mill user guide. So let's get to, yeah, so there you go. So it comes with 6 tips. The cable is a little different. From this end, it's the same as any other TRN, exactly the same as my TRN V90 cable, 3.5. I wish it was right angled, but it is what it is. It's a metal connector, well built, strain relief, all this. Now with all kinks, one thing I noticed, it gets tangled quite easy, but obviously the split, strain relief there. There you go, folks, is strain relief there. None here, so that may or may not be important, but it doesn't have it. These don't have chin sliders, like I say, not that important. The main thing is this end. These are the same as the KZ paragraph C connectors, exactly the same, but these have way smaller writing. But you can't even see that. It's actually L, but it's so small. You can just about make it there, right between the pins. Only problem with the cable, obviously apart from it getting easily tangled, is, see the shape of this? When that's on my ear, this here is far too high. It doesn't do anything. In reality, it needs to be like that, instead of being up there, which it does nothing. But that might just be my ear. Obviously everyone's different. It needs to be like that. Here's a KZ cable. It's pretty hard to show, but see the one on the left? See, it's curved down more. For me, that's my preference. And these are exactly the same fitment. The KZ will fit these, and these will fit the KZ. Exactly the same size, no difference. So that's the only problem with the cable, apart from being. But then again, your mileage may vary, so a little bit more like that would suit me. Better. Let's get into comfort. Comfort's pretty good. See, there's the kind of 3D, kind of custom IEM kind of shape, and obviously that sticks in the part above to keep it more secure. Well, in theory anyway. Displays left, right, as you can see. The vent, somebody on Headfry said that when the water got in, it actually affected his drivers, so they aren't a sealed unit. I don't know if it's a gimmick, but if the drivers need the airflow, I don't think they do. But unless it kind of does two jobs, styling and airflow. But yeah, I'll just take this off. Comfort's pretty good, but these are bigger than the V90s. So here's a V90. It's hard to show, but the size is a little bit bigger. Probably not the best angle, but these are a smaller shape than these. So if you got small ear opening, these may or may not, affect you. Take a look at this. Put that one down. See, nozzle keeps it secure. It keeps these tips very secure. They're quite a pain to put back on. There we go. Took some force. Keeps it secure. Build quality seems really good. It's an all metal construction. So aluminium, I'm not sure what metal is, but it's not the lightest of things. But in the flesh they're quite a nice design. So yeah, comfort was good for me. May or may not be less comfortable if you got smaller ears, but these aren't a small IEM. It's hard to show, from on my hand. But I personally had no problems. Sound, let's get into it. The kind of V-shaped. They got prominent mid bass, which is quite good really from an armature, from a single woofer. One armature's doing the bass, and it does a great job, I think. Over the dynamic can move more air, so it probably sound more bassy. Like the V90's bass is more a little bit, and it just feels more because it can push air. Armatures don't do that. But an advantage of an armature doing bass, it can sound faster, if you understand what I mean. People who've got bass armatures in theirs, and if it's got good bass, you'll understand what I mean. Well, bass is pretty good. Mids are recessed a little bit, which is a shame really. If it was my way, if I was to tune this, I'd have a little bit more mids, but the mids are a little bit recessed. And then there's a peak in the upper mids, lower treble, which may or may not affect you, which means vocals are a bit more prominent. If that peak wasn't there, there'd be a little bit pushed back a little bit, because that peak, which is kind of like what the Chinese like to tune their IMs, is the tend to have that peak, because I really like the vocals. So I understand why it's there. It didn't really annoy me or anything like that. It's not that bad, but it's got that peak. I tried different tips. Somebody said in my previous video to try it with phone tips, so I did, but I found it made it sound quite thin sounding. So I went back to silicone tips, which always seem to suit my ears, and I thought they sounded better with the included silicone tips, and I'm using mediums. So peaks in the upper mid lower treble. Then when you start to get into the higher treble, it rolls off, so you don't get any sibilance, and it's not that fatiguing. There's no real fatigue. So I'll quickly summarise there. Elevated bass does a great job with the bass. Mids are a little bit recessed. If it was my tuning, I'd bring the mids up a little bit, just a little bit, and then bring down that peak, and then that'd be it. That'd suit me down to a T. That'd suit my tuning. So let's get to isolation. Isolation's not too bad at all. It's not perfect because obviously the vent, they're not a sealed unit. Things like the Audio Sense T180 I've reviewed in the past, because that was a completely closed unit. The isolation was amazing, so you could have used that for like stage work or monitoring if that's what you want to do with it. These aren't for that because the isolation isn't perfect, plus the obviously the sound signature is V-shaped, so Like when it says on here it's reference grade, I don't really agree, but that's my opinion. It's not a big deal really. Get to sensitivity. On the box it says it is 110 decibels. I found these really easy to power, like super easy to power. I've ordered the TRN BT20S, which is meant to make sensitive IEMs hiss. So I want to try those on it when it eventually arrives, because I bought it in the AliExpress sale. But these, like the KZ AS10s I've reviewed and I still have, they sound extremely similar to these. They are 5 BAs and these are 5 BAs aside. Anything other than an all BA unit tends to be quite sensitive compared to like hybrids or a single dynamic like the blondes, the legendary blondes. They're a little bit harder to push, but sensitivity was good. So even if you got weak gear, you can easily power these, no problem whatsoever. Let's get to soundstage. Pretty good. 4-way front in ear, they've got some kind of good width to it. Even though it's kind of an illusion because the sound comes from inside your head, because there's your ear. That's where the sound comes from, because they're not a pair of headphones. But soundstage was good. Imaging's good because it's got that, I think that peak. It helps with the imaging. I've watched a couple of films of this and some TV shows, like more action-based things, and these sound great through films. So, before this video gets super long, summaries, do I recommend these? Yes, they're not perfect. If it was my tuning, if I was to tune these, I'd bring the mids up a little bit, lower that little peak, which is not aggressive. To me, it doesn't sound aggressive. It's there. You lower that little peak, bring the mids up a bit. Perfect. It's all you can want from like a fairly cheap IEM. Focus. That's it. Have a quick look at them before I end the video. So this seemed really nice build quality. And there you go. So that's my review. Thanks for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video.